Happy New Year.
What?
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy
New Year.
That's it. January 1st is new. Oh.
Some people would say January 1st is the start of the new year, but not in the Catholic Church. This Sunday,
Advent.
November 29th, the first Sunday of Advent and the new liturgical year.
But for you people who are listening out there in Radio Land and it's like Wednesday, well, happy Wednesday of the first week of Advent.
Yeah, I mean, some people listen to this like 2 months after it comes out.
For you people listening to this 2 months afterwards, happy
Valentine's Day. How's your 2021 going? It's Advent. It's Advent. It is upon us. I for one am pleased. I for one, I'm all about. I like a good fresh start.
I like wearing purple too. It's
violet?
No, purple. Violet? Is that the color?
I don't know.
I like the way you like formal things.
You're turning violet. Violet?
Like Christ the King. Christ the King is called, what's the official?
Solemnity of Jesus Christ, King of the universe.
Okay, what's All Saints Day?
The solemnity of all saints.
And All Souls?
The commemoration of all the faithful departed.
And what color is purple?
Violet.
and pink? The pink vestments are what?
Rose.
See, there he is.
Yeah. I like to, I think it's helpful. It's instructive to know.
Yeah.
I mean, usually like when we celebrate saints, we just call everything a feast. Oh, it's the feast of this saint or this saint. But some of them are feasts. Some of them are memorials. Some of them are optional memorials. Some of them are commemorations. Anyway, that's just me. Welcome to Pastures of Pain. We are a weekly radio show podcast.
Pete FM here in Stilly Waters.
94.3 and AM 780 here in glorious Stillwater, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's 10th largest city. We're pretty excited about it.
And we
also have a podcast. Most people listen to it as a podcast. And then we're also on Oklahoma Catholic Broadcasting Network.
Wait, and St. Michael's Radio? Are those two different groups?
Same thing.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah, similar. So yeah.
Same but different.
Across the state of Oklahoma, we welcome you, and we're glad you're here. And Happy New Year.
I was cruising out on coming back to Stillwater, and I was just since my Sirius Radio contract expired, and so I was using the
you
old.
Forgot to pay your bill, didn't you?
No, I just didn't want it anymore because you just like feel obligated to use it, and I also like turning the dial, like the little knob, since I don't have a CD player in my truck anymore. So I was flipping the little knob, and I hit St. Michael Radio in Tulsa. It's like 94.9, 94 point.
I forget.
Yeah, it's somewhere on that. Well, I don't live in Tulsa, but now
I used to live in Tulsa.
It's on my presets now, and I could hear it as I was crossing Keystone Lake.
Yeah.
And I just kept listening to it.
Very powerful signal. We're going to get Catholic radio in Stillwater.
What?
I mean, there's no, it's not immediate. It's in my plans.
We're going to put Pete FM out of business?
We'll compete, man. Bring it on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I do want a Catholic radio station.
It's not going to be a country region.
I want one
it's
in
just
English.
It's just going to be Catholic stuff.
Catholic radio in English, and then a separate station in Spanish.
Whoa.
Those are that's on my
dream list?
That's in our parish mission and vision plan.
Okay.
It's part of our evangelization.
Next year, I'll have a radio tower for you on campus. You can just put it in the bell tower.
Well, we'll need a place to put our antenna. Either your place or at the old St. Francis Xavier, but it needs to be in town,
Since I'm in the Midtown location.
Is your building done?
No, it's not done yet. I'm still raising.
Just checking. It's Advent. How come it's not done?
I put 11,000 miles.
New year, new building.
11,000 miles on my truck in 2.5 months. Wow. Driving around, raising money,
You're like the bishop.
And also it's like meeting people and teaching them about what we're doing and like the beauty of Christian history and Catholic art and all sorts of stuff.
Speaking of joy, it's Advent. What is Advent? What does that even mean?
Advenire. The Lord is arriving. Venir, like venga, come here. Like it's like that phrase.
Conmigo. It's
like that phrase that St. Paul has. He says, "Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus." Maranatha, and that's what the season of Advent is. It's preparation for the arrival of the Lord, both the second coming of the Lord. I mean, that's what we're waiting for.
So it's basically Christmas?
No.
Oh.
Madison Lockhart or Madison Juergensmeyer, with the 2 years she worked at St. John, Maybe she only worked there one summer, but it felt like 2 years. It was torturous because her and Taylor Uribe, Taylor, whatever her name is now, I forget their married name. Akins. They would always, it's Christmas! And I'd come in and there'd be Christmas music playing throughout the church. I couldn't figure out who had connected, so I had to go turn off the entire sound system.
And so it's not, this is the time of year people call me a Scrooge, but there's actually like, it's not that I don't like Christmas. It's just
I hate Christmas.
No,
is that what you're saying?
There's actually an entire season that we dedicate to Christmas. It just happens to start on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and all the beautiful readings, because if you walk through the 4 weeks of readings from the Old Testament, you get prepared like mentally and physically and theologically and emotionally.
Allow yourself to be formed to get ready for Christmas.
Because then if you go from ordinary time in Christ the King right into Christmas season, you go from Christ the King, which we talked about last week, go back and listen to that, to little baby Jesus. But what's beautiful about Advent is it prepares you, like it gives that anticipation that all of the Old Testament had, so that when Jesus arrived on the scene, millions and millions of people were flocking to Bethlehem to see him.
Yeah, you sort of dismiss the Old Testament.
But that's not true.
You dismiss all the prophecies.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, we hear, especially in Advent, we hear a lot of Isaiah.
Yes.
You know, the people in darkness have seen a great light.
Land of Zebulun, land of Naphtali, land beyond the
Lord
Jordan.
Is upon me. Yeah. So you miss all that. So don't rush. Let's not rush.
And millions of people didn't come to the manger.
And I think that's right. That's
a few people.
Just a few. But I think it's also, in COVID tide, Corona tide, people are kind of anxious for something positive and upbeat and good, and that's Christmas. And so let's move Christmas up. But then, I think you miss out on the anticipation.
I also think Walmart and Target and Coca-Cola stole.
Stop
because
it.
Now, like when I meet with people who are foreigners who are in the United States, they think Christmas is just about a fat guy who is dressed in a red and white costume whose name is Santa Claus. And so you'll be talking to kids from like Pakistan and India, and they're like, wait, I thought Christmas.
What does this have to do with Jesus?
Exactly. You have to start to reteach them. So, good people of God, get out the little pieces of the nativity set. Start to prepare. Maybe like get part of like your tree out and make it into an Advent
start gearing
bush.
up. We're not ignoring Christmas.
And then when Christmas shows up, you get to then celebrate. Remember, like in the as I've told y'all, I'm an Eastern Catholic priest. I'm a Byzantine, and Advent is called Christmas Lent. There's a fasting that goes on.
It's a penitential season. Yeah.
In the Latin Church, it is too, sort of a penitential season as well.
Could be more.
Huh.
But actually, we're not going to talk about Advent today.
What? What the heck?
Even though we just did for 8 minutes.
Ooh, okay. We did for 8 minutes?
That was 8 minutes.
Oh, 8 minutes and 20 seconds.
We keep a little timer in front of us so we know.
Well. Okay, so Father O'Brien, what would you like to talk about since last week was your birthday and you basically reigned as king and God over the rectory?
I did not. I wasn't even there.
He got out a costume and started wearing it around and like had a big crown on his head, and he would like wash my car and do this and like make me something to eat. I was like, who made you God and king? The First Commandment says, love the Lord your God with your whole heart, mind, and soul.
Father Kerry, despite having many, many good qualities, is also a liar. So
I just made all that up on the spot.
That's the 8th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness. But what I thought we could talk about as we begin this new year, one of the things about a new year, right? People make resolutions. People kind of like, okay, new year, I got to get back on track.
New year, new me.
What I thought, yeah. We're going to see a lot of
gym advertisements,
gym, Weight Watchers. Everyone's going to be out because everyone's making resolutions. I want to talk about the First Commandment, and I thought we might actually do this. I mean, we never have like a lack of topics. I don't know if you've realized this. We've been doing this.
We can talk
a year and a half. 2 years? I don't know. We've been doing this for a
Jay?
long time.
How long have
More
we been
than
doing
2 years. 2 years. More than 2 years.
Jay says over 2 years.
We have a lists and lists and lists of topics, and then other people give them to us, and then sometimes things happen like in the world that we need to talk about.
And then someone sends in a donation check to our Catholic radio and sends a little suggestion, and we do it.
We've done that.
That's bribery right there.
Yeah.
We can be.
But we thought we would do, just over the course of the next several, let's say, months, kind of walk through each commandment and just do a little fervorino on what the commandment is and kind of how it can be best lived out.
Okay, so we're going to do like...
So it's not going to be consecutive. The next 10 episodes are not going to be on the 10 commandments.
There's going to be a sort of a sprinkling of the 10 commandments?
A sprinkling.
One of my favorite scenes, have you ever... Mel Brooks, where he walks up and he's Moses, he's like, I bring you these 15, and then one falls out and shatters like, I mean 10 commandments.
Exactly.
I love the commandments because, what is it? There's the 7 that are about your neighbor and the 3 that are about God. I mean, so right off the bat, like there's the big 3,
yep.
like,
but they're I mean, and I think number one is number one for a reason, because if you don't get the first commandment right, the others are going to fall apart.
Okay.
So the other cool thing, and we'll dish in on this is that the Catechism of the Catholic Church has a lot to say about these commandments.
So you can go over to your shelf and get either the big green giant catechism or the little bitty pocket size, or you can go online, pull that thing off, and crack it open to what number? What number are we?
So it starts at paragraph 2084.
2084. So the commandments given to us by God, written on the hand of, written by finger on stone to Moses on the mountains.
Yep.
He's got 2 sets of them. He comes down, and the people.
So here's the first commandment. This is Exodus chapter 20. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Ooh.
You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. So you shall have no other gods before me.
Okay.
I'll just throw out a couple little quotes here, and then we'll jump into it. So the Catechism says, man's vocation, man being humanity, man's vocation is to make God manifest by acting in conformity with his creation in the image and likeness of God. That we have been created in God's image, but then we make other things into gods. So we talked about that with Christ the King. That there is a need to put faith, hope, and love first. Faith, hope, and love first. So let's talk about each of those, shall we?
We talking about faith, hope, and love? Or are we talking about the first commandment?
Both. That's how the Catechism talks about it. So that if you are, when you are, so let's say, for example, when you're ignorant of God, when you're not knowledgeable, that hurts your faith, and that allows then other things to creep in,
right,
and become number one in your life.
Agree.
Okay. So one thing I think people struggle with is like, what about doubt? So a lot of people, you hear it sometimes in confession, like, of like,
conversations on the streets.
I doubt, I don't
lost my faith.
I don't know. Yeah. So is that would you say that that's a violation of the first commandment? What would you
doubt? I look at it sort of 2 ways. There is the influences that I've taken in that have destroyed my faith, such as like we talked about, just the return back to church. Like there are things that take us away from thinking with God and willing with God. There's things that take us away from like willing what is good in our lives. So therefore, it then like dissolves our faith. The second side of that is the other side of it is there are these moments when God is inviting me to know something more about Him.
Yes.
And God wants to reveal something more, and we say, I don't understand this. This is complicated. I'm maturing in my faith life, and because I've never been in this place with my relationship with God, then my faith seems weak, Father. My faith seems weak right now. Like I don't get it. So one side is stuff dissolving and destroying your faith, and you're permitting it and allowing it to live in that. And the other side is, wow, I'm being called, and it's confusing. And now I'm being invited to learn more about who God is, to grow in my faith. I'm being challenged.
But I would say, but then to not respond to that kind of invitation is problematic.
Why is it problematic?
Because you're being invited into something deeper, and you go in the other direction, or you ignore it. You're missing out on that relationship.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Catechism makes a differentiation between voluntary doubt and involuntary doubt, which I think is pretty interesting. So you come into teenagers a lot of times, and adults too, but like, I just don't know. Like, do I want to be Catholic, or do I believe like all of this? But I think that the person has a responsibility to like lean into that and not just sort of whatever, but to dive in. So I think part of the First Commandment is, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're talking? Are you putting other things in front of your relationship with the Lord?
Well, it's just like those things, like it talks about other gods, and people are like, I am not building temples to gods. But I promise you, like we build boats and then we worship them. Yeah. And that's where we spend our Sundays. We build golf clubs and we worship them.
Oh my.
We build an ego and we worship
power, money,
Yeah, it's not so much like the created things that, of like making birds, which birds were gods and crocodiles were gods and gnats were gods. Those were the Egyptian gods. The Nile River was a god. Let's not make those things our gods, but then we've got other things that float on top of them. And, we wear crocodile boots.
So the Catechism talks about various sins against God's love, against the First Commandment. And here's a few. Just jump in here. One is indifference.
Agree. Is that
indifference neglects or refuses to reflect on divine charity.
Ooh. Yes.
Yeah. Indifference. Ingratitude.
Yeah, lack of thanksgiving.
Fails or refuses to acknowledge divine charity and to return him love for love.
Yeah, wow.
Lukewarmness. Hesitation or negligence in responding to divine love.
That's what you just mentioned.
It can imply refusal to give oneself over to the prompting of charity. Acedia.
Oh, yes.
Or spiritual sloth goes so far as to refuse the joy that comes from God and to be repelled by divine goodness.
Wait, say that again?
Acedia, or spiritual sloth, goes so far as to refuse the joy that comes from God and to be repelled by divine goodness.
Repelled by... So divine goodness shows up, the beauty, the aroma
and you want to destroy it.
And you're like...
Yeah, you want to run in the other
step
direction.
Off.
And then the last one here is hatred of God comes from pride, contrary to the love of God, whose goodness it denies.
Yeah.
So those are sins against the First Commandment. Indifference, guilty. Ingratitude,
guilty.
Lukewarmness,
guilty.
Acedia,
sometimes.
Guilty, sometimes, yeah. Hatred of God, no. But pride, guilty. I'm guilty.
Well, I think there are those people that have a great hatred for God. There's also, I think, more of the people on the front end who are just like
lukewarm.
I just don't care. The agnostics.
You believe that? That's great. Fantastic.
Agnostic on
Good
one side,
you.
atheist on the other.
Yep.
And so we have to be on guard as Christians. As like, why is it a lot of our kids don't practice the faith anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we have young people who are not becoming saints? And it's because we've either moved them towards, the agnostic side of lukewarmness, or we've moved them to the hatred side of atheism.
Dang. Okay, so how do we live out the First Commandment? Not just like how do we not live it out? Adoration. And I mean adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, yes. But adoration in the general sense.
Yes.
Adoring the Lord, spending time with the Lord.
Is that the gift of the Holy Spirit, which is piety?
Like so actually the Catechism says the worship of the one God sets man free from turning in on himself from the slavery of sin and the idolatry of the world. That worship frees us.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
That's pretty fantastic.
I don't think a lot of people see it that way. So adoration, prayer, talking and listening to God, right?
Yes.
Sacrifice.
Oh, but not a lot of people use the word sacrifice anymore.
Yeah. So sacrifice helps us to worship, helps us to live out the First Commandment. Promises and vows. So that's we whether someone who's married, right? You take vows. As priests, we make promises to do certain things. And the Catechism says, fidelity to promises made to God is a sign of respect owed to the divine majesty and of love for a faithful God. He's been faithful to us, and so we return that faithfulness. Love for love. How fun is that? Isn't that cool?
That's pretty awesome.
Pretty cool. Okay, and then this is where it gets pretty interesting, and I think where it might be most interesting for people who are listening.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
And that is the First Commandment forbids honoring gods other than the one Lord who has revealed himself to his people. So this gets into things like superstition.
Barely superstitious, just writing on the wall. Okay, go on.
Superstition in some sense represents a perverse excess of religion.
Perverse excess of religion.
It takes it like too. It's a like when something is perverted. It's a misuse. It's religious, but it's a. I mean, we usually use it in the sexual sense.
Wait. I want to hear this again.
Superstition, in some sense, represents a perverse excess of religion.
Is it superstition? Is it like the superstitious things of other pagan religions and the superstition of Christian things?
Both.
Oh, okay. That's what I was trying to clarify.
Yeah. And then also idolatry.
The worship of people or things.
So it says, man commits idolatry. This is paragraph 2113. Man commits idolatry whenever he honors and reveres a creature in place of God. Whether this be gods or demons.
Yes, okay.
For example, Satanism, power, pleasure, race, ancestors, the state, money, etc.
Don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal balls. Okay, got it. Okay,
there we go. And then this is where I think people will be really interested when we get into what the Catechism calls divination and magic.
Okay.
All forms of divination are to be rejected, and now it makes a list. Ready?
Okay, go.
Recourse to Satan or demons.
Okay, well,
pretty self-explanatory.
Uh-huh.
Conjuring up the dead.
Yeah, that means going to tarot cards, palm readers.
Here we go. Conjuring up the dead or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future.
Oh yeah, that's nasty. There's in the ritual for exorcism and deliverance prayers. There's a section on that.
Yep. So stay away. So then it gets very specific. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading. Interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone.
And those things work. People are like, oh, that doesn't work. They do work. That's why we have to stay away from.
Work in a bad, yeah.
Oh yeah, because I mean, like for example, remember when Saul wants to bring back Samuel, and like because he's confused as to what to do, and Saul goes and finds the witch of Endor, and like conceals himself and summons Solomon, and she says, "You're Saul. Why have you done this?" And then she's terrified when Samuel shows up.
Yep.
These things work. I mean, people messing around with tarot cards and Ouija boards and Santeria.
So what do you do if you've done that?
If you've done that,
what ought somebody?
This
what
is
advice do you give?
This is the advice I give every college student: is go to confession. If you went to confession about it years ago, then there is actually in the ritual deliverance prayers a really beautiful prayer about breaking these bonds by the power of the priest. Don't be like, oh, well, I can go online and I can find myself a prayer and I can pray. No, go to your local priest, have him get out the book on deliverance prayers and go to, it's like chapter 2 or something like that. Have him pray these beautiful prayers over you, that it's not only just the expulsion of these things that have attached themselves to us, like, the smell of like garlic when you have garlic or onions on your hands and then you smell it, it's attached to you for a couple of days. The same way these things are, these evil spirits, they attach themselves to us.
Don't mess with it.
Don't mess with them.
So then a few other sins against the first commandment, tempting God. So kind of making deals.
If you do this,
I will start.
Do.
If this girl walks across the bar and talks to me, I will go to church every day for the next year. Whatever. Okay? So I can obviously be more serious than that. But it comes to the commandment, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Okay? Sacrilege. Sacrilege.
What's sacrilege?
So it says sacrilege consists in profaning or treating unworthily the sacraments and other liturgical actions, as well as persons, things, or places consecrated to God.
Yeah. There are people that do evil stuff in churches.
Sacrilege is a grave sin, especially when committed against the Eucharist.
Ooh.
For this, the sacrament of the true body of Christ is substantially made present for us.
Like those people that stole the Eucharist, and we're going to have that
Yes.
black mass down in Oklahoma City.
Yep.
Rah-rah, Archbishop,
Yep.
for getting Jesus back.
Simony.
Simony, is that selling offices?
The buying or selling of spiritual things. So you would say like, hey, you want some water? Okay, this water costs $1. But this is holy water. This costs $5. We don't sell things.
What about the purchase of relics, like recovery of relics? We know that people have bought them and they're like selling them, and we're like, we want these back.
I think in that purpose, somebody may know better than me, but like if you're to save them from, if they're going to be misused or then yes,
like buying a statue that we know that's like in somebody's garage or is in their house being used for something evil.
But the key is like, I think people would try to do this of like, I have this rosary costs $10, but Pope Francis blessed it, and so now it's $25.
So the market value goes up.
Same rosary. But it goes up because we say no.
And then I reach over and I bless it and I say, now Father Kerry Wakulich has blessed it. Now it's $50.
And now it's much less. But then that also goes like for us as priests, like we don't charge for like the sacraments.
Right.
That's not I'll celebrate this mass for you, or I'll pray for you, but you have to give me $5. I'll pray for you. Like we don't do that.
There was that website years ago. That's where I get the phrase anti-praying. That it was a website, and it was a Christian church and one of my buddies found it and texted it to me, and it says these people take back their prayers. So you could write in a prayer request, and they would start praying for you. You could donate online. Or you could send it a check or money order to their church for the intention of the prayers that they're doing for you. If they don't receive it, they take back the prayers. It was like some little hole in the wall, non-named sort of like Christian church organization.
Wow.
Okay, what else we got?
The last part, sins against the first commandment. There's a whole section on atheism and agnosticism.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a thing we did a show once on kind of like graven images. What if there's this prohibition against graven images? Why do Catholics have statues?
Or why is there angels on the Ark of the Covenant? Why are there angels on the Ark of the Covenant? Why does the serpent held up?
We did a whole show on that last. Anyway. So that's kind of a run through the first commandment. So again, in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it starts at paragraph 2084 and following. But there's a lot there. Just all from that. All from you shall have no other gods before me. The church breaks that open and gives us some real specific guidance on how we ought to live or not live.
Right. So you can start with the Catechism. You can go to lots of other stuff. New Advent. If you Google New Advent and you put in First Commandment, you're going to get lots of good readings. If you have the Logos software out there, you can find a lot of stuff from the early church about the first Commandment, and then you can also read about the First Commandment and the Beatitudes too.
Woo! That was awesome. Have a great week, everybody. Happy Advent.
Peace, bro.